Gotchard finally coming to a close, I figured it was about time that I gave these riders Pokemon typings, since you guys love the other two so much. And this would have been out sooner, but John Toei just decided to wait until the last 3 episodes to defeat the second and third rider's final forms. Gotta love that. Anyways, with Gotchard, there's an insane amount of form changes, so it's gonna be a long one, so sit back, grab yourself a beverage, and let's get right into it. Now this goes without saying that Gotchard takes inspiration from Pokemon with creatures known as Chemis. And I don't know why I have to explain this, it's not like you haven't watched the show, but with these Chemis, Gotchard can combine 2 compatible cards to create a rider form. For example, Hopper-1 and Steamliner create Steamhopper, which is Gotchard's base form. And I'm not gonna lie, this one was really hard for me since some of these are gonna have weird typings, or just have similar typings in general, so please forgive me if there's a lot of the same typings. And for fun, I did include the overabundance of wild forms. So starting us off, we have Gotchard's base form being Steamhopper, and that is going to be Bug Steel. And I mean, this one's a no-brainer, it's literally a grasshopper and a train. What else was I gonna do? But moving on, we have AppareSkebows, and this one's going to be Dark Steel, and this thing reminds me a lot of the Bisharp line with Pawniard, Bisharp, and King Gambit, so please let me know if you guys see it too. But then we also have Antwrestler, who is going to be bug fighting, and it's literally an ant and a wrestler. Also, this is one of my favorite Gotchard forms, and one of my favorite Gotchard episodes. But up next, we have Needlehawk, which is grass flying. I mean, this is literally a cactus and a hawk, which is a bird. What else can I do for it? But moving on, we have Venom Mariner, which is going to be a Quillfish Toxapex clone with poison water. And I mean, it literally has venom in the name, and then it also has the ability to swim underwater. But up next, we have our Fire Monkey being Burning Gorilla, and it is of course getting the firefighting type, basically becoming the Infernape of Gotchard. But to counteract that, we have OrochiShovel with Water Ground. And I mean, he literally creates bubbles and it's a shovel. I guess you could say that this is a Palisand reference, but I didn't want to give it the ghost typing. Now up next, we have one that is a little bit weird to do, and it is Hikesorozu. Now with Hikesorozu, it basically has this fireman design, but it also has the grass rose aesthetic with it. But I really wanted to play into the whole fireman motif, so I gave it the pure water typing. Let me know if you guys would give it the grass typing or not. I just decided to go with pure water to play it safe. But I decided to give it the flash fire ability since it can resist heat. But up next, we have Gold Mechanator, which is electric steel. And he literally shoots lightning and deflects it, and well, he's all armored up, so that's why the typing is what it is. But we also have another electric steel typing with Lightning Jungle. And this one generates electricity as well, but it actually acts as a stun gun. But now it's time to get into some wild forms. And first up, we have Odorumantis with Bug Flying. And I mean, it's literally a praying mantis, and it also uses tornado attacks, which is where I got the flying type from. But up next, we have Energy Maru, which is Electric Dart. Now, Energy Maru is actually partially based around energy drinks, which give you electrolytes. And as for the other half, it's based around a ninja, which is normally associated with dark types, for example, Greninja. But up next, we have MadPirates, which is one of my favorite wild forms in the series. And that is going to get Steel Fire. And I mean, Madwheel is literally a car, and Pirates, well, I just think they're cool, so I gave it the fire typing. I mean, One Piece is literally my favorite anime. But up next, we have Bullet Chocho, which is a bug steel typing. And I mean, it's literally a gun which is made out of steel, and then, well, it's a butterfly, which is a bug. But up next, we have our Vikavolt clone being Smahotaro, which is Electric Bug. And I mean, it's a smartphone, and it's a bug. Where else was I gonna go? But up next, we have Spickle Whale. Please don't get onto me. And it is going to be a water steel typing, and I mean, it's literally a water bike. But moving on, we have Bat King Robo, which is one of the coolest wild forms out there. And it is going to be Dark Steel. And I mean, it's literally a mecha, and it's Batman. But up next, we have Bakuan Televi, which is Bug Electric, and it's based around a cicada and a television. You could say I should go for a different typing, but I decided to go with Bug Electric. But up next, we have Stag Mirror, which is a bug psychic type. And I mean, it's a stag beetle and a mirror, which is often associated with psychics. Also, it reminds me of that one Kirby creature. You know what I'm talking about, the one with the little beams and all of that. You know, from the original Kirby games. And by the original, I mean like N64. I know there's probably early ones. And up next we have Great Sorcery, which is bug poison. And I mean, it's partially a bug, and sorcery means scorpion. And scorpions usually carry venom. Now next up we have Dr. Heavy, and I decided to give it the pure poison typing. And this one was hard to do since it's technically a doctor and a snake, which both can inject you with something that it could be either good for the body or it could be terrible for the body. But moving on, we have Bunny Parka, and I mean, this one's really easy. It's a normal ghost type. I mean, it's literally a parka being possessed. But wrapping up the wild forms, we have Trycatcher with a bug rock type. And it's partially based around a spider, but it's also based around this little dinosaur thing that reminds me a lot of Rhydon. But now that we've gotten through all the base forms for Gotchard, we have Super Gotchard. And starting us off, we have UFOX, which is a psychic type. And I mean, it's legit a UFO, and it also reminds me a lot of BEM. But moving on, we have XRex, which is Rock Dragon, and it represents fossil Pokemon, examples being Cranidos and Rampardos, which are some really cool mons, by the way. But up next, we have one of our movie forms being Star Gotchard. And I decided to give it the bug steel typing, but I wanted to give it the multi-type ability since it does have the whole gimmick of combining all of the X cards into one suit. Now up next we have Fire Gotchard Steamhopper Edition, which is Fire Steel, and Fire Gotchard uses mostly fire-based attacks, and I took the steel typing from Steamhopper. And as for Fire Gotchard AppareSkebow's edition, I decided to give it the Fire Dark typing, and this one's the same deal. I just took the typing from the base form and attached it onto here. And of course, you know I had to do it again. Fire Gotchard Antwrestler is going to be another fire fighting type, giving us another Infernape representation. But moving on, we have Iron Gotchard, which is a pure steel typing. And I mean, it's literally just Steamliner. But up next, we have Platinum Gotchard with Bug Steel, but I decided to give it the multi-type ability since it's Hotaro using all the Kimmies at once, plus Steamhopper. But up next, we have my little buddy Nijigon over here, and he allows Hotaro to become Rainbow Gotchard. Now, obviously, he is a Dragon type, but he can Terastallize to become a Stellar type. But that's pretty much because he can do the same thing as Platinum, but he's able to create the Gotcha Brothers with Rainbow Breath. But up next, we have our Hyper Battle form with Marsphoenix being Fire Flying, and when I saw this, I pretty much just thought Moltres. But now we have our movie form being Miracle Gotchard, which is Steel Fairy, and it uses Gigant Liner, which is based around a train, which is a steel typing, and then miracles are normally associated with fairies and all that type of stuff. And I also decided to give the Legend Rider form some typings as well. And starting us off, we have ExceedMighty, which is based around Kuga and Fize, and I decided to give it the Fighting Steel typing based around Kuga's fighting style, and then Steel is mostly because Fize is more futuristic and all of that, but it also does have a Fire Gotchard form, so for that I decided to give it the Fire Terra type. And up next we have CycloneTatoba, which is Psychic Flying, and the Psychic typing has more to do with the Tornado attack that Double does as a finisher, and then also the whole Gaia Memories aspect. And as for the Flying type, it's a reference to Oz itself. Now up next we have FullFull Rocket, which is Psychic Steel, and it's a reference to space and rockets and all of that, which is basically a Forza and build reference. It makes sense why these ones were together. Now next up, we're going to get into some movie spoilers, so if you don't want any of those movie spoilers, you can skip to this timestamp. But now that we're out of Gotchard, we can finally move into Daybreak Gotchard. And he's going to get the Psychic Fire typing, and the fire is basically based around the sun. It's a huge movie spoiler, and then Psychic obviously because of the whole aspect of him being from the future. And you could essentially say the same thing for Fire Gotchard. I'm not even going to cover it, just it's Fire Psychic. And Daybreak is another form in the movie being Shining Daybreak. And this one's going to be Fire Fairy, and it pairs up with Miracle Gotchard, so that's why I gave it the Fairy typing. And then the sun comes from Rene, which is, you know, the whole gimmick around Daybreak. And we are finally out of Gotchard and heading into Majade with SunUnicorn. And I decided to give it the Fire Fairy typing because the sun is literally a ball of fire, and then the Fairy typing comes from unicorns normally being associated with fairy tales and all of that. And up next we have my favorite Majade form being Moon Cerberus, and it is going to get the Psychic Fairy typing. And the Psychic typing is mostly just a reference to Lunatone, and then the Fairy typing is because Cerberuses are normally associated with fairy tales. But lastly, we have Majade's final form being Twilight Majade, and this is going to be Dark Fairy. And it's literally just two halves coming together with Atropos representing the Dark type, and then Rene representing the Fairy typing, because all the rest of her typings are fairy. But up next we have Valvarad with Fire Steel. And this one was really easy since it's literally just referencing his black flames, and then also his whole gimmick is based around wrenches and all of that. But I did decide to give him the Dark Terra type, basically representing Geats and the Black Flames. But Spanner also uses OrochiShovel, which is Dragon Steel. And Orochi is basically an 8-headed dragon, and then the Steel typing, I just wanted to keep the Steel typing across the whole line. But up next we have Angel Copter, which is Flying Steel, and it's based around angels, which are associated with God and flying and all of that. But up next we have one of my favorite Gotchard suits, being Valvarad Kurogane, being Fire Steel. And I decided to remove the Dark Terra typing because his black flames turn into silver flames, so technically he should have the Steel Terra type. But up next we have the man, the myth, the legend, literally Kamen Rider legend with the Steel typing. But I decided to give him the multi-typing because basically he transforms into other riders and he can also summon them. And the same thing goes for his final form. But now we head into Kamen Rider Dread with Type 0, and that would be Dark Steel. Now the Dark typing will basically be through the whole entire line, but the Steel typing comes from the Steamliner clone. But moving on, we have Type 1 with Dark Fairy, and the Fairy typing comes from the Fairy typing in SunUnicorn. But as for Type 2, I decided to go with Dark Fighting. And I decided to give it the Fighting type because it uses a club to fight. But now we have Dread's final form being Type 3, which is Fighting Fairy, basically taking Type 1 and Type 2 and combining the two. But up next we have Renee's father being Kamen Rider Wind, which is a flying type. I mean, this one's literally a no-brainer. It literally has wind in the name. But up next we have Kamen Rider Dorado, which is Dark Fire. And low-key, I just felt like this man gave off fire aura. But we could go for the Dark Psychic typing since he's Gearion from the future. Let me know what you guys would pick. Now next up we have Kamen Rider Eld, which is Dragon Dark. And that's literally because he uses an evil Nijigon. Do I have to say anything else? But we also have the Dreatroopers being Dark Steel, and this is literally because they're evil robots. But I also decided to give Valvarad's base form a typing, which is Steel. And this mainly is because he uses Mad Wheel, and that's it. But I also decided to give the Ark Malgam a typing because he's technically a rider, but he's not. But anyways, I decided to give it the Dark Steel typing. And this is a reference to him being an evil version of Ark, even though Ark is technically evil, but he's not. But Ark would be a Steel typing anyways. I guess that's a 0-1 preview, I guess. But if you guys did enjoy this one and want me to do Kamen Rider Saber, let me know down in the comments section below. If we can hit 50 likes, I'll get that out as soon as possible, maybe within the next 2 weeks. But with that, make sure to go ahead and subscribe with notifications on. And with that, I'm going to get the heck out of here. I am FullFull, and I'm out. Peace.